Friend of mine saw Shredder in the shower. He said that Shredder had an 8-pack. That Shredder was Shreddet. Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for the Green Ranger Shredder figure from the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. This form and figure is based off the TMNT MMPR crossover comic that came out a couple years ago now, I guess. It's almost been a couple years, or at least a year, which was actually surprisingly really good. This was my favorite form from it, the figure I was looking forward to the most, and I think it mostly held up to my expectations. As per usual, we're going to go over the accessories first. There's not a whole lot. He really only comes with one alternate set of hands, which are these, which are just some closed fists as opposed to the open kind of attack hands he has on him. And then these effect parts that you can put on the ends of the blades, and then that's pretty much it. He doesn't have a whole lot else. I'm not really sure what else they could have included with him, but I feel like there maybe could have been a little more something. And he is a little bit larger than the other Ranger figures. I think overall, look-wise, he's pretty good. Like, in terms of the details and the sculpt, I find the proportions to be pretty accurate, and I don't really see any too huge missing details or any huge paint discrepancies, because there's a couple, well, there is one. It's more like a plastic discrepancy. Nothing too noticeable. Really, it's only down here, which is the knee pads here are this kind of like lighter yellow color that don't match the golden armor everywhere else. And that's not a deal breaker for me. Like, for the most part, like when it's standing back here, you can notice it a little bit, but it blends in for the most part for me. It's not like a huge deal, but I do wish that these were the same color as the gold here. But other than that, it's not like the greens are different colors and there's weird patchwork or anything like that, or the head's too big or too small or anything of that nature. So other than that, other than these, I think that's pretty good. I really do like the gold paint they do use. It has a really nice kind of shine to it, but at the same time, it's not like overly bright and cheap looking. Like, it's kind of tinted down dark enough where it looks kind of real in a way, but it's also still shiny, and you kind of got that same bit here. The only other nitpick I have isn't about a color discrepancy, but the gold, this is gold, guys. The green is a darker green, for sure. It actually shows up a little bit brighter on camera than to my eye, for whatever reason. But I feel like it's just not confusing, but it depends on what panel you look at. If you look at some of the concept art, when you Google this character, it's the darker green like this or even darker, but then in some of the panels in the comic, he does appear to be a brighter green. So I feel that this is just a little bit darker than I was expecting, even though also a lot of the promo shots show him off this way. Again, it's kind of a nitpick. I just wish it was maybe a little more calibrated. It's not a huge deal. I would say maybe arguably the darker color fits more with his character, but that's something else that I noticed. As far as my only other last nitpick, has nothing to do with the details, is that he is a little bit loose around the waist or the chest. Not a huge amount, like it's not like it's going to wobble around or anything, but it does feel a little bit looser and just less tight, meaning that it could become worse over time. But just kind of getting into more details. Other than that, again, I think the head sculpt looks really good, really nice proportion. I think the paint looks good. I think this looks good, as I mentioned. We have some pretty decent details on the Morpher where you can actually see what coin it is and whatnot. And you know, you can definitely see the joints all up in here, but that's kind of unavoidable in a lot of cases. It's not too huge of a deal for me. Good gold paint here. Also, like for his feet, he also has a really nice silver paint that sticks out. I'm glad it's not like a cheap gray plastic or something. It just adds to it. And you could probably also tell that he has a cloth cape, and there's actually some rips to it, which is kind of nice to give it that effect. Just kind of be careful you don't snag this on something and rip it or something. And, you know, there's been various different ones. I think Magna Defender and Black Gold Draken used plastic, and this one is cloth. And it can look cheap sometimes. It just really depends. I'll say that I actually like the cloth one on this. I kind of go back and forth on which one I prefer. Sometimes the plastic ones can also look a little strange, a little less malleable, and they can cause them to become back heavy. And so I'll say that I kind of like it for this. You know, sometimes there's also been ones in the past where they'll put like a wire here so you can pose the cape, but then that looks a little bit weird, but you can basically pose it by doing stuff like this. So I'll say it might look a little cheap to some, and maybe a little bit kind of looks like an old 90s figure with this, but I'm happy with it. I don't mind it. I think it was the right choice for the most part in that regard. For articulation, you know, you have your pretty much par for the course here. Nice ball joint here, hinge joint here, swiveling here, elbow joint, swiveling at the hand, nice ball joint at the leg, swiveling at the leg, knee joint here. You got your little ball hinge joint at the foot, and then obviously you can see the waist and chest articulation really obviously. You got a hinge at the waist and a ball joint at the chest, and then the head has nice articulation. You can move it all the way around. It can go up and down, but because you have the heavy armor-plated head and then the armor itself, it does hinder it a little bit, so you're not going to be able to get as dramatic as a motion. And you can see stuff here like this armor will clash and then cause this to bend, so just be careful with that. So for this figure overall, I would say I'm pretty much mostly happy with it. I feel like I was expecting a little bit something more, to be a little bit more wowed for some reason. Maybe I was just setting myself up too much. And I do have some minor nitpicks, as I mentioned at the beginning of the review. But setting that aside, I'm still happy with this figure. I still think it's a really cool figure. I'm really glad we got these turtle figures, period, or all these figures from the turtle crossover, rather. I think it's really special that we got them. I was really excited by the possibility when I read the comic, and I'm really happy we got this one in particular because it was my personal favorite design from the crossover designs. And so even though it's not as cool as I thought it would be in some ways, and I have some nitpicks, I still really dig it, and it's probably my favorite figure of the bunch overall. And I think if you like this design and you were interested in it, I can definitely recommend picking it up. It's not perfect, but it's still a pretty cool figure, and it has a lot less issues than other Lightning Collection figures. But that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell. See notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.